Have you or someone you know experienced unexplained health issues potentially linked to electronic warfare? Project Archimedes, in conjunction with law firm Disabled Rights Advocates, is leading a groundbreaking worldwide action against the United States government, focusing on the impacts of 5G, EMF, and other unexplained phenomena, including what's known as Havana Syndrome.
We're dealing with energy weapons,
permanent brain injuries, the unexplained, serious medical harm connected to a mysterious direct energy weapon.
It was like this piercing feeling on the side of my head.
If you've suffered from symptoms like headaches, dizziness, memory loss, or other unusual health effects that you believe could be related to these technologies, we want to hear from you. We are seeking justice for those affected by these potentially harmful technologies.
Sharp, localized ear pain, dull unilateral headache, tinnitus or ringing in one ear, vertigo, visual focusing issues, disorientation, nausea, and extreme fatigue.
This was the most terrifying experience of my life. I had no control.
By joining this movement, you could help prevent future harm and potentially seek compensation for what has been endured.
We have created a global class action lawsuit. Foreign litigants would be availed to the U.S. courts to seek recovery for those who caused the damage. All roads point back to the United States.
To learn more about your rights, potential eligibility, and how to join the movement, visit projectarchimedes.org.
So we're going to sue in the United States with people from all over the planet who qualify to be a plaintiff simply on the basis that they spend an hour or more a day within 100 meters of a 5G transmitter.
Project Archimedes and attorney Todd Callender are committed to fighting for those who have been impacted.
These are the people who can't fight for themselves. They're the ones who can't hire the lawyer.
Visit projectarchimedes.org today to find out more about joining the movement.
Hello, Vaxxchoice and CloutHUB community. Thank you so much for joining us today for a live episode of Truth Be Told, hosted by Todd Callender. How are you doing today, Todd?
Fabulous. Happy Friday. It's a beautiful day. I get to spend some time with my pal Don Mann today, so it's an extra bonus. How about you?
I'm doing good. We got some pretty cold weather here in Kansas, but other than that, everything's going good, going smoothly. I'm excited to hear about what they're offering with the Ultimate Warrior Battle, right?
Yeah,
so I'm curious to learn about that and also hear about your monologue consists of today. It's always informative. Again, this is where I get my news from, so pretty much how I stay up to date on things that are going on. So
I'm glad you said that, because if people haven't seen it, when you go to CloutHUB, there's a news section. It's one of the tabs. Go there and you will get information that others will not understand for another 2 weeks, maybe even a year, based on our batting average in the past. So please look at the news item. This is internal. It's something our research team has, and everybody else will be eating your dust. Today, Don Mann and Ken Shamrock. This is going to be cool. Anything Ultimate Battle has got to be fun. So I'm anxious to see what they got to say. We'll do that right after we get to all the news and the monologue.
Awesome. And it's always good, it inspires me in this age we live in where men are told not to be men, and to see women still be able to show their strength as well, and men be manly men. So I'm excited to learn about it, and I'll be in the background enjoying the show, Todd, and I'll come back at the end for questions.
Beautiful. Thank you. As always, Melissa's a CloutHUB Vaxxchoice team where men are men and women are women, as it should be, right? That's the whole point of CloutHUB. It's the whole point of Vaxxchoice. We're believers in God's creations, and we don't think that the attack on humanity is going to succeed. Why? Because of all of you. When you have a dinner conversation and you share the knowledge that we're sharing with you, it has an effect of connected consciousness, and people are rejecting it. We stopped the shots. Now, what do you see? Like Project Archimedes, people are saying, holy cow, 5G, I'm getting cooked. The other day, my wife did an Uber thing, and a Tesla showed up. She's like, I don't want to get a Tesla. I don't want to be cooked. So people are aware of it, and it's that awareness, that hesitation to buy a Tesla, that hesitation to do anything 5G, the huge run on Faraday cages and bags. this is taking our planet back. This is preserving God's creations that these gangsters seek to destroy. And now they have names. Professor John Bell of Oxford, for example. He sounds like an American guy, and he got knighted somehow or other. That means that the crown loves him. I wonder why they love him. Listen to what this guy has to say, and then we'll have a pretty good clue.
These vaccines are unlikely to completely sterilize a population. They're very likely to have an effect which works in a percentage, say 60 or 70%. We'll have to look quite carefully, and the regulators will have to look quite carefully to make sure that it's done what we need it to do before it gets approved. So there will be a delay between the outcome of the trial and a decision whether it.
Yeah, a vaccine. You mean like Gardasil, Professor, like that one where, it's required in all 50 states of girls childbearing age. If you want to go to junior high school, you got to get Gardasil, which of course makes you sterile. That was the whole point. How do I know? Because we tested it. And it's full of sterility proteins and hormones that they also put in the COVID shots. This guy isn't just saying this in a vacuum. He is part of Ellison's Institute of Technology. Remember that guy, Ellison, who wants to use mRNA and 500 billion to effectively transform humanity? If you don't mind, put that up. There we go, because I want people to research it for themselves. It is going to be in the show notes. And now, thank you, Mike Adams, who understands this is where the connection is. The DNA is plugged into, effectively, computers. And that's where they wanted to go. They want to merge man with machine down at its molecular levels, not even the cellular level. And you might remember, we've talked about this previously as it relates to FTX, which we're going to circle back to. But I want folks to understand there is now a plethora of evidence that this is the agenda, your death or your transformation into a new species. Either way, it means the extinction of our species, which is, of course, what it is they're after. There is some precedence for this too, all the way back to Arthur C. Clarke. We're going to play a little video clip. This goes back to the 1960s where he's talking about this. That's how long they've been at it. Play that one, would you, Melissa?
In 1978, a documentary about the future of artificial intelligence was made, and one of the people featured was Arthur C. Clarke, the famous scientist and author of a ton of sci-fi novels, including 2001: A Space Odyssey. Clarke gave his predictions about where AI was heading, and his predictions are absolutely horrifying.
I think that what we're doing now is, in a sense, creating our own successors. We have seen the first crude beginnings of artificial intelligence, and we will one day be able to design systems that can go on improving themselves, so that at that stage we have the possibility of machines which can outpace their creators. And that will just prove the thesis that I've sometimes suggested, that the computers are designed to be our successors, and that perhaps when they come along, it's our function to become obsolete, as our predecessors have become obsolete and been replaced by us. And I feel that.
Yeah, and this is so robust, by the way, that the IEEE has already developed standards on how it is they're going to measure, track, trace, and create a ledger, pluses and minuses of your biorhythm, so that they can harvest those, use you as a cloud computing node, use you as a battery, as a power source. It's all there. In order to develop international standards, it means that they've necessarily been at this for a very long time, decades, in fact, because it takes a huge amount of data to do this. But those of you that have been watching are aware that website, inpersona.com, now it is dev.inpersona.com, because we scared them away a little bit, so they tried to hide. But they brag of having already used 1.4 trillion heartbeats to mine cryptocurrency. That means taking biorhythms, turning them into electricity, and using your body as a cloud computing node to solve mathematical equations to get paid in crypto. This is commercial. It is live. Do the math. 1.4 trillion heartbeats so far. If you do the math on that, you'll figure out that they've been at this for a very long time. Arthur C. Clarke, the most haunting words he says there is that if they accomplish this, it will serve us right. This being the takeover of humanity. And Elon Musk said it himself, that we'll be praying to the AI gods. I don't really care for that, and I'm not going with the program. You, ladies and gentlemen, have the ability right here, right now, to also say no. 5G is the Achilles heel, as is AI open programs such as this. We can choose not to participate, right? We can defund 5G. We can turn off our 5G cell phones. We can exit our subscriptions. That's what happened in Wuhan, China, November 2019. By the way, 21 million Chinese ditched their 5G. What do you suppose they know that we don't? In the meantime, Mr. Trump's kicking ass and taking names. I had confessed to being happily surprised that I noticed in his first term, in the very first executive order he issued, there was a piece of law that they cited to. It's called IEPA, the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. And it was only 2 years later that the DOJ extradited the head banker for the Vatican, followed by a plane load after plane load of gold coming back into the United States. Now you're hearing about a reset in gold, a reset to the U.S. economy. Mr. Trump has said it from his last term. He'd like to see a gold-backed dollar. Now there's going to be a big reveal with Mr. Musk is going to go and audit vis-a-vis Doge Fort Knox. Is it going to be there or is it not? We're going to find out here before too long, ladies and gentlemen. My suspicion is that not only is the gold there, I think it's roughly 4,500 metric tons of that. When we're in the marketplace looking at the real value of gold, it is somewhere between $12,000 and $122,000 per ounce. So say the learned experts, but I would remind you, it's not just me saying this. So if you look into the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, those who loan money to governments to collateralize you as a slave, you will find that they have changed their base currency to something called monetary gold, and they're accepting their interest payments on the loans in physical gold. So now you got gold flying all over the world because this is going to be the international standard to back currencies. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen, and if you haven't purchased any gold, I really highly suggest that you do. The price right now is hovering around $3,000 an ounce. We've bought a boatload of it. In my world, you can't go wrong with this in so much that it's universally valuable. It is portable, and above all, it is anonymous. And anonymity is the key to freedom, ladies and gentlemen. It also turns out that 85% of the Swiss gold exports are headed where? To the United States of America. And I think it's worth looking at this little video that goes with it. I think it's Gateway Pundit, if you wouldn't mind bringing that one up, Melissa. There you go.
Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield Podcast. A lot of talk about Fort Knox. How much gold Israelis are getting it wrong? Now, Fort Knox may be empty. I don't know. I actually think it's filled to the brim, and I think the greatest gold heist in world history was about to take place if Kamala Harris would have won the next election, continuing the Biden-Obama era. That's what I think. I think they were going to steal our gold using taxpayer dollars. I know it sounds conspiracy theory-esque, but when you consider history and real evidence, and I'm going to show you real evidence, that this happened before in history, that the Rockefellers, in cahoots with the federal government, bought gold from the U.S. Treasury at a deeply discounted price, increasing their net worth and family fortunes tenfold. So all of this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what Doge is doing, and then I did an interview.
Yeah, Doge, but it's a lot more than Doge, ladies and gentlemen. Now we got Kash Patel, and I think he's out for blood, ladies and gentlemen. I really do, and this is going to be a riot to watch. The reckoning that I worried would never come seems to be coming right now in form of Mr. Patel. God bless you, brother. Go get him. Keep in mind, this is really important. IEPA. Why? Because it allows the U.S. government to seize assets abroad using civil asset forfeiture. You don't even have to convict them. All you need is probable cause. And what do we have here? Also, an executive order ending weaponization of the federal government. Mr. Trump, this is really impressive. It's a short executive order. It's all of a page long, but it's specific enough for us to understand the meat. And that is no more political prisoners, no more Gulag Archipelago. America's back, ladies and gentlemen. And two very fine Americans are with us today, Ken Shamrock and Don Mann. I love these guys. Don and Ken, welcome to Truth Be Told. I'm so happy to have you here. You've got a new project, The Ultimate Warrior Battle. That's why we're here to listen to it. Don, our audience knows you a little bit, but remind them, you are the guy that not only was a SEAL, but you're the guy that decides whether somebody gets to be a SEAL, amongst other things.
Todd, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah.
I was involved in a lot of SEAL events, mainly for civilians trying to become SEALs. And I was asked by our highest ranking admiral to put on these events. And it was what a pleasure it was helping the United States to pick the right people to get into BUD/S. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
And you've done this for some years. You've had these challenges. I see them. They seem to be mostly like desert landscapes. And I look at just how brutal this is. It's like a triathlon with weapons. And then and after being exhausted, then you still got to shoot straight, which I confess to you is very difficult to do in my experience.
Well, you know, Ken Shamrock and I, we put this together in Vegas at the SHOT Show. And we started thinking that men have to be able to defend themselves, take care of themselves, take care of their families. And boys have to be grown up into men. They can't have all this stuff being women. And to be able to defend yourself, there's 3 tiers to our program. You have to be fit, really fit. And fitness has to be part of your lifestyle. You have to know how to shoot weapons. Long guns, pistols, shotguns. You just have to know how to defend yourself in your home.
That's right.
And you may not have a weapon when you have to defend yourself. So you might have to fight without a weapon, which is great. So this program we put together, the Ultimate Warrior Battle, it tests 3 things: fitness, armed defense, and unarmed. And the next surviving man, I am so blessed and honored that Ken Shamrock's going to host it with me.
Cool.
And then we started talking. We're saying, well, we should put an event together. And he had the Lion's Den, which is known around the world. And his philosophy and what we do in the SEAL training, it aligns up so nicely. So we put this event together, and the first one's going to happen in April. And Ken's going to teach the first contestants how to fight. And then they're going to go over this very physically challenging 10 minutes or so. Then they're going to pick up the weapons, 10 minutes of tactical shooting. And then they get in the ring one-on-one like a gladiator, and Ken officiating the fight.
Now that is extra cool. I'm looking forward to that. Ken, where are you from? How'd you get here? And how did you figure this part out?
Yeah, I've got kind of a story that kind of helped me become the man I am. I grew up in a group home. I didn't have parents. Ended up in a group home at 13 years old, went through the juvenile system, got into trouble, got stabbed, a lot of things, and ended up getting locked up, became a ward of the court at 13. I went through, I don't know how many group homes, in placement, work camps, boot camps, all those things that they put me through at a young age. Ended up at a place called the Shamrock Boys Home. That's where I started to understand what life was about, being pushed in the right direction, using sports as my frustration and anger that had built up over the years and not trusting anyone. I put it into sports, and I was very aggressive. So those things went real well for me. I became relevant through sports. I wasn't this punk kid that was going to be dead by the time I was 18 or in prison. I ended up moving into college, played some football, ended up moving in a direction of hand-to-hand combat over in Japan, became the first champion over there before it was here in the United States, when it was like the UFC over there. This was in 89, 90, 91, and I became their champion there in a short amount of time. Soon after that, UFC broke out in the United States. I threw my hat into that ring, ended up becoming the face and the champion of that organization. Had the opportunity to work with the military and their hand-to-hand combat units for almost 10 to 15 years now. That has been truly an honor. Been doing a lot of motivational speaking, being able to work it with ministry, things of that nature.
Very frustrated over how things have been happening in the United States the last 4 to 6 years. Very frustrating. It's really nice to come across Don and be able to meet him at the SHOT Show, start talking through some things because we were going to co-host the show together. I know he'd been doing it. I saw it. I went nuts because I thought we lost that. The ability to really test someone's human nature, someone's human strength, someone's human mental toughness, all those things that seem to be pushed under the rug, that it doesn't matter. It's okay not to be okay. And I just refuse to believe that. I think everybody should always strive to be better. It's okay to have problems. It's okay to have issues. It's okay to be those things, but it doesn't mean you stay there and say, okay, it's okay for me to be this way. It's not. You got to get better. So speaking with Don and having the opportunity to be able to, see some of his things that he had visioned, some things that I thought about, and really come together and be able to do this Surviving Man. I'm very excited to be a part of it and be able to add some extra one-on-one combat without weapons to be able to test these guys. But at the same time, we're in a really, really great spot to be able to create something that's going to be kind of what I think for at least the next 4 years and hopefully longer, that we're going to start creating this ability for people to be tough. It's okay to be a tough guy. It's okay to go in there and test yourself and push yourself to the limit and let the world know about it. And I think we have a great opportunity to really almost showcase, in a sense, our military. Obviously it's open to everyone, but it really gives these guys an opportunity to really come in and show the world what they're made of.
That's what they're made of. And I'm glad you said that. What a tremendous story, by the way. I look at life as a school. This is God's school. And the lessons are presented because we must learn. And you've obviously gone through a very hardy school to get where it is you are. But when I hear you guys talking about this, what I really hear is you're rebuilding our society. Because when you see soldiers, even like airborne guys, the 82nd being forced to march around in red high heels, our leadership of the military was demoralizing them. They were trying to make our military, our service members, into an ineffective fighting force because they had already capitulated to the Chinese, the one world government, and they had to destroy the United States. What you're talking about is rebuilding, right, from the very bottom up, that men are men, and we have to have an effective, a very lethal military. I heard Mr. Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, say that yesterday. We are about lethality, and it is this. It's pride in being manly. It is pride in being tough. It's pride in being deadly to your opponents. And that's what I see is so attractive about this. You're rebuilding our society, gentlemen, something that so desperately has to be done. And I also noticed Mr. T removed the trans from the LBG, whatever that was, 61 letters long. Okay, people are gay, whatever, but that's irrelevant to what it is we're talking about right now. Don, you've got a storied history. How many people in your lifetime do you think you've put through these special operations programs?
Well, including the adventure programs, it's many thousands.
Thousands.
Todd, I would, if you don't mind, I'd like to add one thing.
Go.
Ken is so humble. He's called the world's most dangerous man, and I love
Quite
that.
a title.
He's also the nicest guy in the world you can meet. So when we're training these young boys to be tough men, they don't have to go around and act it and pound their chest.
Yes.
It's break glass in case of war. You got to break that glass. Then the warrior comes out. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to make monsters, but we want to have a hidden monster in them. So you mess with me or you mess with my family, you're done. And Ken's like such a perfect example of that because he's the nicest guy in the world, but the most dangerous man in the world.
Yeah,
and
I love
that's
that.
What we want to produce.
Well, I think that's
also too, I can add something too,
Please.
so that it
While
makes
we're
sure
here.
that we truly understand this. Is because in the world, it's not fair to the women either, because when you think about it, they're really victims of this agenda that's being pushed on the world, and it's like now it's almost like they're doing with color and skin and race and all this other stuff. They're literally pitting everybody against one another
to try to fight with each other. Just like with the women, when they're literally trying to push the men down and the women up.
Yes,
and the
that's right.
reality of it is, it's like, there should be none of that. It should be, everyone should be able to be strong. Men, women, children, whoever should always be able to produce and do whatever it is that they're capable of doing together.
Productivity is the key. I couldn't agree with you more. We are rudderless without productivity. And so when you hear Klaus Schwab and these gangsters talking about giving people video games, sticking them in a little teeny house or a room and playing video games, that's because they intend to use them as batteries and cloud computing nodes. No joke. I'm fascinated by your time in Japan, by the way, Ken. I want to get back to the challenge itself. But for a non-Japanese to rise to the level that you did must have been a very daunting task, because judo and jiu-jitsu are effectively the national sport of Japan. And I actually went to the Junior Olympics in judo, so I really enjoyed that. It was a tremendous sport. How did you get there? How many years did it take you to master these arts there?
Yeah, I like to say I've been blessed with ability.
Yeah. Yes.
I think it was probably a year, maybe a little less than a year.
Wow.
That I was training and literally won the first tournament. But I attribute that. I really do attribute that to my mentality that I was going through as a kid, because I remember always telling myself that I was never going to, especially after I got to the Shamrock Boys Home and I started becoming a young man, I promised myself I was never going back. I was never going to make those mistakes, and watching other people not take advantage of their opportunities that were handed to them. And I felt like this was handed to me, even though I was in placement. I felt like Bob Shamrock, who adopted me, and my mom, Dee Dee Shamrock,
so cool,
who literally poured into me, and I did not take that for advantage of that. I literally said to myself, I'm going to make this work because this is my opportunity. And I recognized it at 16 years old. And even the classes and the teachers that were working with me extra, because they wanted me on the wrestling mat, they wanted me on the football field. So I had to have a C in every class, not a C average, but a C in every class. And I didn't go to school because I was always in placement. So I was in special ed. So I had to work through all of that stuff to be able to be relevant and get to where I wanted to go. But me as a person, and I speak to all those people out there that are going through anything like this, when those advantages that you get come your way, do not take advantage of the opportunity without looking at it and understanding where you are and what your opportunities are, and take full advantage of anything or anybody that wants to help you.
Yeah, that's right. That's really important. And the grace by which you undertake these things is really important. Don, that is you, by the way. There's a lot of validation that goes into these programs, right? Why do people do it? And I think you said it yourself, Ken. I want to understand the mentality. How is it that you are going to take people into this? And what kind of an audience are you seeking to attract with this?
Well, my opinion is we want the whole world to be interested in this. I don't see why anybody would not. We would get the human emotions and all that on camera. But basically, what they're going to do is we're going to screen the folks. Ken and I will screen them. And they will come out and they'll be fit as nails to start off with. And
or
by
think
the
so.
time they get to the ring to fight, they're going to be exhausted, like you would be in combat or you would be in war. So it's almost like, if you put it back to my life with being SEAL training and SEAL trainer, you do the physical fitness, and then you do all the phases of BUDS, the early phases, and then you go out and do the missions. This is going to be the same thing. The physical fitness comes first, then you learn the skills of shooting, and then the last skill would be of unarmed fighting. And it covers it all. It covers it all. We want people to train for this because it's going to make them a stronger, better human being, a stronger family member, a stronger husband or wife or brother, who's ever doing it. It's just going to make them a better person.
Undoubtedly it will. And a stronger person, having had the experience. How does somebody apply to be a part of this? Where's it happening? And how do we get to watch it? I pray that you're going to live stream this or something on CloutHUB, because we'll definitely get behind you on this. How do people sign up?
It's going to be the first one. The inaugural event will be part of Surviving Man Season 4 in April. And that's when it'll be filmed, and that's when we'll do it. And then it usually gets broadcast a few months after that, May, June, July timeframe. But we'll definitely keep you in the loop on it. We'd love for you to
Please.
help us.
Yeah, we'll get behind that.
Great. And thank you for that.
No, it's such a joy. And then for ladies and gentlemen watching, Liberty Club will be up and running by now. That's CloutHUB 2.0 effectively. So we'll get both of those platforms behind it. It's going to be a great deal of fun. Now, Ken, are you in the ring when you're doing all this stuff? Are you training any of these guys in advance? And by the way, what is your favorite art in all of fighting?
Yeah, no, I'm not. My days are over when it comes to competing inside, but I really love to be able to share my knowledge and be able to help young individuals, elite individuals, succeed at this. And it's been my whole life, even when I was fighting, is to give people a chance to be able to. Yeah, to be able to, have the opportunity to be able to really find themselves, especially if they're coming here. They're here because they want to achieve something. They want to know what they've got. And we want to make sure that we can do that for them. And a lot of them are probably not going to do well, but that's okay, because at least they know where they're at, and they can go back and they can work harder to get better, because this isn't something that myself and Don are doing to, help people just get through the course. This is here for the elite of the elites. And you've got to put yourself in a position to be there. And if by chance, which, as tough as this is going to be, you don't succeed right away, well, at least you know where you're at, and you go back there and you make yourself better. I said it early on in the show. It's not okay to not be okay, because you should never be okay with that, right? You should always want to be better. Well, this is kind of the same thing, where you're going to find out where you're at. There are going to be some that do it, and there's going to be some that fall short. That's going to tell us who those people are when they come to time to be able to come back and try and do it again. They'll know where they're at to get better. So I really enjoy this part of it, of being able to work with elite individuals and be able to even work with them some on new stuff for them. Like, a lot of these guys aren't going to have a clue about the individual hand-to-hand combat. Some of them will, but very quickly they'll learn.
The other part to this, I think, is spiritual. If I heard you correctly, there's a ministry component to this somewhere. And in my experience, to arrive at the level you gentlemen have, right, to go through what it is you've gone through, the only way you survive that is to ask God for strength. How do you feed that in? Because I see the crucifix on your neck. I wear one myself because I've had to ask God for strength and wisdom most every day. How do you work that into this, if at all?
I'll go ahead and do first. I'll let Don close it. For me, it's no different than what I do in normal life, with being able to help people out. Being able to speak into their lives, being able to give them positivity, give some of the experience and things that I've gone through to help them get through things. To me, this is no different. This is an opportunity to help elite individuals succeed at something and being there. But at the same time, I'm not their mom. I'm not their dad. We're going to push. They're going to go through some extreme challenges. So we're there for that aspect of it, to make sure that they're pushed to their limits, and then see who they are or what they're capable of at that point. But I love this part of being able to support people and help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, it's really a joy. All right, Don. So that's back to you before we bring Melissa back in. If you can build on that, the one thing I'm really trying to get at in your mind, what is the number one commonality, the one quality that guys that went through your programs all had in common?
Mindset. What we call combat mindset, the mindset that no matter what, even facing death, when I've been faced with weapons at my face and weapons in my chest, told them we're going to be shot, I knew I wasn't going to die. If I did get hurt, I knew I'd recover. So I think your mindset, like Ken Shamrock has more than anybody, but if you have that combat mindset, you don't have to call it combat mindset, but if you have that powerful mindset, you will succeed. You're going to. Nothing can stop you. And what I'd like to also say, as far as religion and Jesus and God,
Yes.
what the tougher the people I know, the toughest people I know, people who are really pushing themselves and putting themselves out there, those seem to be the most spiritual people I also know.
Yes.
And it seems like when you're out there on the edge, you really identify that there is a God or a Jesus, and you have to have a relationship. And you know, we all struggle in life, but I if I say I pray 100 times a day, I'm under exaggerating that. You know,
I get it.
Tough for the people. I think the more you put yourself out there, the more you have to identify that there is a Jesus or a God or whatever they may call it, that person or that thing. So I agree with
Yeah.
that.
I let me add to that too,
Please.
Don. And for me, I think just in the walk of you know, your faith,
Yeah.
the one thing that I think that kind of maybe even takes a setback a little bit is when you're too verbal and you're speaking a lot of about Christ and this and that, and you don't. I think actions, at least in my sense, I think actions, the way you live your life and the way that you treat people, really tell who you are as a person, and the opportunities that you get to speak about Christ. Well, one, like ministry, I get the platform to do that, but just in regular life is when people start asking questions or looking for answers, and that you're able to kind of throw those things out there when the opportunity is there. But I also think in a lot of times it seems like maybe there's too much talking and not enough action.
Yeah, that's all true, and it's really hard because it's based on, I guess, the incident at hand. What is it that you do? And Don, I think it was you that said it. Like you want to just shatter the glass when you actually need that warrior. The rest of the time, the best fight you'll ever have is the one that you walk away from. In my experience, it's better to avoid it if at all possible. And it's when you hit that wall, there is no other way than you'd better come out and plan on winning that fight, because there's only one winner, right? That's how this thing works. And I was going to say, Melissa's got her young boy with her, a new warrior in the making right here, Melissa. And I know growing up in your house, that's going to be the case. When do we sign them up for recruitment and training?
April. He could do it.
April, bring him. He's a little bit small yet, but he'll get there.
He can run. He can run and throw things really far.
We'll feed him up. Melissa, you got to have some questions by now.
Yes, one of the questions I had was, you said there will be like a kind of a selection process of people who sign up. What are those categories of qualifications, and how do you decide who to let participate?
You know, Melissa, so the way we'll be doing that, this first one, the inaugural event, will be conducted in April, right after Surviving Man season 4. So those people will be there, and they will already have been selected. And wow, the people with 2 females and 6 men, they are all, we would have selected them all no matter what, because they're so tough.
That's what I wanted to see. Look at that. It's a tough gal right there. And by the way, how does that work? How does the selection process work, Don?
So for the selection, we'll have it online, but people will send in their bios, their photos, and a video on why they want to be there, why they want to be part of the Ultimate Warrior Battle. And then Ken and I will take all these and we'll select the best of the best. And the folks we're getting this first time, I mean, they're warriors. They're battle hardened in real battles. They're fit as nails, and they can all shoot. And every time this happens, every time we have a UWB, I believe the next time we're going to get tougher people. Yeah. And this first one's got extremely tough people. But we'll look at everybody's bios, their photos, and their videos, and why we want them to be represented on the show, the UWB.
It's not a requirement that they had already served in the military, and not a requirement that they even were in the United States. Do I have that right? That's
right, because we're going to have some foreigners in this first one.
Yeah.
But, the military, you know, I'm all for the military, of course, but there's other ways to serve your country. And, you know, and if I could add, what happens is a lot of times I'll get a phone call, and a dad or a brother or a son or somebody would say, hey, I want to become a SEAL. How do I become a SEAL? And I usually mumbled my way through it. And finally, I found a way just to say it simply. And it's not only a SEAL, it could be a fighter, it could be Delta Force, it could be anything physical. And I say, all you have to do is 4 things every day. Every day, just do 4 things. And I realized as I started saying this, it's kind of how I've always lived my life, and I will continue living my life until I'm done. And I tell them every day, do something to make yourself stronger. You figure out what that is. You might go to the gym, you might do CrossFit, you might do a PT session in your house, but you figure it out and make sure you record it so you know you're getting stronger. And don't expect it on a silver platter. You figure it out. Every day, do something to make yourself faster. So if you want to go to BUD/S, you want to be a SEAL or a Ranger, a Delta Force, you got to be a fast runner too. Do hill sprints, do fartleks, but get faster. Do sprints in the pool. If you could do 120 sit-ups in 2 minutes, do 125 in 2 minutes. But every day, you make sure you do something to make yourself faster. More importantly, I think, is every day do something to make yourself smarter. So if it's a fighter you want to be, study guys like Ken Shamrock, Randy Couture, study study about all the fights and the great fighters and how it's evolved. If it's a SEAL you want to be, learn weapons, go take a skydiving course, take a diving course, but get smarter. Learn about these 90 countries the guys are in now operating. And then most importantly, and this could be faith-based as well, but most importantly, do something good for somebody each and every day. And because it could be your neighbor, it could be your mother, it could be the guy down the road. You don't even know who he is. But do something good for somebody every day, because at some point, you go to selection, for instance, you might be the strongest guy showing up, the fastest, the smartest, and the one everyone wants on their team because all you know is doing good for people, and you're the ultimate teammate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's, I guess, the point, going back to this is rebuilding our society. And what you're talking about is a renaissance, right? It's a proud moment in human history. We're retaking our dominion, our domain, our future that was soon to be stolen away from us. And the quality of what it is you're talking about, the quality of the person is really critical. And especially as you arm people, you want to make sure you're arming people with good intentions, right? That's the other part. Is I love that Renaissance man kind of mentality is really beautiful, Don. And absolutely, I endorse that 100%, particularly looking out for others, because at the end of the day, we're here to serve a purpose. And usually, in my experience, that means helping others, being of service to others. Certainly gives me a lot of joy in my life. What else you got, Melissa?
Yes. So sorry if you hear my son. He's
welcome.
Years. So
good boy.
But another question I have is, I've seen like local events where they do like obstacle courses. Is this somewhat of an obstacle course, or is it like just skills? What is it, a mix of everything? What do you think?
Yeah, an obstacle course, and I've put those on for many years, like Spartan and Tough Mudder or Battle Frog. Those are fun, and they're fun events, and you can choose to do the obstacles or not choose to do them. And you finish and you're tired after a half hour, 2 hours. This is on steroids big time, because the obstacles they're not man-made obstacles in the fact that you might not, this is something you might see if you're in battle or if you're competing one-on-one, going against the enemy. We're taking the fight to the enemy. So the enemy is, I'm looking at a parking lot now. I see the enemy. I'm taking the fight to the enemy. I'm going to eliminate the enemy. So the obstacles I might have is crawling under barbed wire. I might be hiding behind trees. They're kind of man-made obstacles, but used in a tactical, defensive way. And then when they get to the shooting, it's not just paper target, stand-up, static shooting. It's you're moving and you're shooting behind barriers, and you're shooting, taking cover, kneeling, prone, standing, and it's all tactical. And if they pop up the head and they show the head, they get points deducted. And so it's all real world. It's much real world as we could put into it. And then when they get to the ring for the fighting, Ken's got certain rules he's going to apply to them. But those are the 3 phases, and they have to they know they're coming in. They won't know exactly what the events are because we'll change it up every time. They'll have a physical phase, a tactical weapons phase, and then the unarmed fighting phase.
I got to tell you, I got to slip into this.
Because if you're just a shooter, you're not the ultimate warrior. What do you do if you don't have a gun? And if you're a fighter and you come across somebody with a gun, you could lose that fight. So this is the first one where it's the ultimate warrior, hand to hand, unarmed and armed, but physically fit too.
See, I love this. And I want to add to this calculus, because if you invite Chris Heaven, he's a close pal of ours, and his wife, somebody is going to be getting shot while they're going through the course, because I saw poor Chris was going to his tactical target range, and he's moving around, and his wife is shooting him with a pellet gun. I thought, my God, that's got to be very distracting. He said, "Pop your head up. I had this vision of Chris's beautiful wife shooting people with a pellet gun."
Chris Heaven trains harder than anybody I know.
He does.
Defense. Love the way he trains.
I do too, man. He's really something, a force to be contended with, for sure. Is he going to participate in this? Because I have no doubt he would be formidable.
Yeah, he would be a monster. We'd love for him to participate, or at least be part of it in some way. And I think the world of Chris Heaven.
Yeah.
And he's everything we're talking about. That's the type of person
he is.
To help create a person like Chris Heaven.
Yeah, that's right. And on that notion, by the way, the other part of this thing, one of the places where I go with the spirituality part, is a thirst for truth. That Renaissance man, Renaissance woman kind of a thing also comes with it a certain kind of candor, right? Which is that you don't mince words, you don't hide behind political correctness. You can be gentle and you can be polite, but the truth is the truth. And it's one of the things I love about people like that, yourself included, both of you guys, Ken and you, Don, is it just is what it is. The facts are what they are. We don't have to make them all nice and lovely. They just are. That quality of truth is such an important part to all this, because you've got to be true to yourself if you're going to accomplish these kinds of things. If you're lying to yourself, you can't get through these kinds of programs. It just doesn't work.
It's funny too, because you say that word truth.
Yeah.
And, for the longest time, it was simple, truth is truth. But it seems like with the way that the world and how the world's been educated through political endeavors or agendas, that truth isn't the same anymore. Because even now, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but even now, as almost as clear as it can be, numbers don't lie. When numbers don't add up, or dollars don't add up, or monies or gold or all this other stuff doesn't add up, and then you find out that something went wrong, and has nothing to do with the actual truth of it. It's whatever truth you want it to be, because your agenda can't have that money or that gold or whatever it is not balanced. Because if it is, then your party has, and shouldn't be this way, but your party now is now damaged, which we've put parties in place of truth, or agendas in place of truth.
That's right. And that's the whole point, right? Satan's greatest weapon is deception. Our greatest weapon is truth. Because as people get exposed to it, as they find out what it is, what that perspective change looks like, then what you kind of find is that everybody comes around to that same place, and we get the real connected consciousness. So that of humanity, it's the thing, what you're talking about is the thing that makes firemen run into a burning building for a dog. Not just a kid, not just to save somebody, but selfless acts that are absolutely insane that we shouldn't do. It's that human quality, right? That's the part that we're talking about, reaching in there. And I think that's what you're going to demonstrate with
that's what we're excited about with this, is because I know I am so honored to be with Don and his background and what he has done. I mean, like, he is the ultimate in being able to be a part of this, and these guys look up to him as I do. It's just tremendous, right? So, but it goes back to that same thing, when you step in and do this, there's nothing to fall back on but your truth. Who are you?
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. We got time for one more, I think, Melissa.
Let me check the chat here. I just think it's cool to have something that if somebody's never really been able to test their true physical strength and skills, this gives them a chance to do that, and with cool, inspirational men to do it with as well. So I definitely recommend where do people sign up at? Where do they go?
Good.
So right now, you could either go to the AmericanStories.com or Surviving Man shamrock.com. Either one of those will have it listed after the first event. So we'll do the first event in April, and then it'll be posted on one of those two websites.
Beautiful. And so that's I guess the other part of this. This is not a one-time feature, right? This is going to be a permanent deal. People can watch, they can learn, they can engage, and then they can apply, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, we want to take it to the Navy for Navy SEAL fundraiser. We want to help the Border Patrol, help screen applicants for the many people they're going to be hiring. We want to do this all over the country many times over.
Boy, wouldn't that, I mean, talk about saving our government money vis-a-vis Doge. I mean, Don, you know for sure, but we've been watching in the U.S. military that they dropped the requirement to have a high school diploma. They dropped the requirement to speak English. They were so desperate to fill the ranks with anybody and everybody coming across the border that they dropped all standards effectively. And now you got these characters going through boot and they can't cut it. I think it's less than half are actually getting through basic, much less going on to the special forces kind of stuff. So I love this idea, and I would hope that there's a means by which we can grow it. Because I think you've got, what, eight challengers in each side, men and women?
For the first one, we're going to have 8, and that may go up or down a little bit on the second one, but 8 seems to be the right number right now.
All right. I've got the last question if you don't, Melissa.
Please do. My son's honking his toy horn.
God love him. What is that challenge? How do you put that? There's an analogy I use because I like to fish for trout. How do you float that fly in front of somebody's snout to make them bite and want to be a part of this? How do you do that?
You don't. You can't. They have to be here because they want to be here. They have to have the mentality to test themselves. They know what they're getting into because they know what it is. And for them to be there, they're already in their minds saying that this is what I want to do. And they already know, even though they don't know all of it, they already know how tough this is going to be just because of me and because of Dawn and what that represents. So I don't think it's, if we have to convince them or if we have to say something to them to motivate them, they're in the wrong place.
That's a good answer. My question comes from a different angle, and that is that our water has been full of atrazine, effectively destroying men's hormones, women too. That now you've got a great giant population of very confused people. They don't know if they're man or woman or otherwise. So they've messed with manhood in particular, and frankly, say it for what it is, they've pussified manhood. We've got to reverse that, and I want to find what that is. I asked that question from a selfless point of view because I want another generation of real men to come forth, and I want to know what is that challenge? When I went through boot, that was the moniker, meet the challenge. You either did or you didn't, and that was a really good motivational use. So I want to find that fly. I'm not done yet figuring that one out, but with that said, guys, please send us your promotions. Melissa's going to put them in the show notes. We'll help you in any way we can on a going forward basis. We'll support you in everything we do. And Melissa, you've got it already. No, she's gone. That's the life of motherhood. Hey, there's your new contestant.
Little warrior.
Right, that's it. He's going to be minimum age, right? What is it, 18? Or is it 2-year-old work?
We could find another 2-year-old. They go back to back.
All right, guys, last words. Have at it. Tell us where to go, how to find you, how to follow you.
Yep, it could be found survivingman.com or americanstories.com.
American Stories.
That's where the first one will be broadcast.
All right, beautiful. Ken, do you have your own website?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go to @TrueBareKnuckle, which is a promotion that we're doing that we think will really come along with what we're doing with the Ultimate Warrior. Also, the website is at Ken Shamrock Official. Twitter is @ShamrockKen. Instagram, Ken Shamrock @Ken Shamrock Official. So again, I want to say thank you so much, you guys, for having us on. And Don, always an honor to be speaking with you.
Yeah, and it's really great to see you. You inspire me every time I see you. And Todd, thank you so very much. You do too. I love the word you put out. I mean, you're at the pointy end of the spear, putting out the stuff that has to be heard. And Melissa, thank you for setting this up for us.
It's truly our honor, gentlemen. We're taking our planet back. Start with you guys. So God
Amen.
bless you all. Thank you for your efforts, ladies and gentlemen. Get behind this because we need it, right? We've got to rebuild our society, and this is how we're going to do it. So God bless you all for what you do. Thanks for being here. So long, fellas.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, Joshua.
Thank you.